ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have another brand new movie review for you all, and I am going to be reviewing Thor, Love and Thunder. So Thor, Love and Thunder is the fourth Thor movie, and it is once again directed by Thor Ragnarok helmer Taika Waititi. This time around, of course, we are picking up after the events of Avengers Endgame, for Thor's very first solo outing post those events. As the trailers suggest, Gorr the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, is on the loose and butchering gods. Sure, there's a little bit more in there than that, but you get the gist of it. With Thor Ragnarok being in my own personal top 10 for the MCU, my hopes were pretty high for this one. So now the question is, does it live up to the expectations? Well folks, we're about to find out. As always with my brand new movie reviews, this will be 110% spoiler free, so if you're watching this before the movie or to see if this movie is right for you, you can proceed with confidence. Before I hop into the actual review itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my new movie reviews, so be sure to check that out and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. So the very first thing up on my positives list is all of the characters that you already know and love that return in this movie are just as lovable as ever. Sure, Thor might be his absolute dumbest in this movie because the character just continues down that path of being more comedic relief than anything, but nevertheless, he is just as lovable. Valkyrie once again returns, and she's still a badass, and Korg is still absolutely and endlessly hilarious. But my next 2 points are the heavy hitters. First being Natalie Portman returning as Jane Foster, and now, as we've seen in the trailers, the mighty Thor. And yes, they do follow the original storyline fairly faithfully, as they do go with the cancer storyline, that Jane Foster has cancer, and she uses Mjolnir to sort of become this alternate version of herself, the mighty Thor. And after, what, 9 years, something like that? I think the last time that Portman was in the MCU was Thor the Dark World, which was like 2013. She slides right back into Jane's shoes like she was in them yesterday. And now with this new getup, she is powerful, she is awesome, she is badass, and I thought she was freaking fantastic in this movie. And the other point is the other big addition to this movie and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. And do you even really have to ask if this man delivers? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he delivers. He is dark, he is eerie, he is creepy, he is extremely strong, and he has so much fun in the role. You can tell he just chews up every single scene he is in. He's having the time of his life, just being a weirdo and having fun, and it translates so well to the screen and works really well for the movie. Next is the soundtrack and the score. The soundtrack, just like in the trailer, is chock full of Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses, I think, is like their 3 or 4 most popular songs are played in this movie. There's other 80s rock mixed in there, and the score too is exceptional. And I was just loving life. Sweet music to my ears from beginning to end. My next positive is just that the action was great. Yeah, that's pretty standard for the MCU at this point, but it's always good when you get great, entertaining, big, bombastic action, and it's no different here. There's these shadow monsters that are like Gorr's army. They're great. Their design was really cool, really scary, kind of weird. The stuff that you see in trailer, the throwdowns between Thor and Gorr are just wicked. And again, Natalie Portman kicks ass, so anything with her or anything with Valkyrie, all that stuff worked exceptionally well too. And yeah, there's just a lot of action in here, and for the most part the action is really solid. And my last positive for this movie is that just like Ragnarok, it is very bright, colorful, and vibrant. Sure, sometimes it is a bit too much, but seeing how it's a pretty common complaint that a good portion of the MCU movies are a bit on the darker side, have, pretty drab, bland color palettes, they're a little colorless at points. It's nice to have ones like this every now and then. It's like Thor Ragnarok and now Thor Love and Thunder, and like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, they're the more colorful of the bunch, and it's always refreshing to see them. And now for the negatives, and sadly I do have a fair few negatives with this movie, and some of them were negatives, like not just little nitpicks, but genuine issues I had with the movie. First is that the humor did not work for me almost at all. Sure, I chuckled here and there, but I love Thor Ragnarok. It is among the funniest, if not the funniest, MCU movies. I laughed the whole way through that movie, no matter how many times I watch it, but I just think they took it a step too far. It's very childish, there's a lot of potty humor. Like I said, Thor is arguably more dumb than ever. It's like they continue to dumb down the character, and the humor just really did not land with me very often in this one. And another major nitpick that most people have with the MCU as a whole is that it doesn't let the emotional moments breathe, and this one especially so. There might have been one emotional moment, and they try to go for a few in here. There might have been one that they actually let just be kind of an emotional, sad moment. The rest are constantly bogged down by jokes and little throwaway gags and things like that, so that really did irritate me this time. Next, and I considered putting this one like part in the positive and part in the negatives, but I think it's more on the negative side, and that's that the CGI was very wishy-washy. Don't get me wrong, it's not awful the whole way through. There are some shots in here that are like the best looking, most magnificent shots among the MCU's massive catalog. But then there are shots in here that it looks like something that I would do, and I have no visual effects CGI experience at all. So it was very weird because sometimes it was like the best looking visual effects and CGI in the MCU, and the next scene it could be the worst that I've seen in these, 20 plus movies, plus shows now too. My next negative is that there is just a lot of cringy stuff in here. Cringy to me anyway, because I know that cringe is more a subjective thing. Some people might enjoy the stuff in here that I found to be cringy. A lot of it had to do with the humor. A lot of it had to do with some of the lines and the line delivery. There are a few key moments in here, and I'm sure after you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, that just I did not like. It felt just way too childish, way too goofy. The story, for me personally at least, left a lot to be desired. I felt that they rushed through Gorr's backstory way too quickly. I felt that they rushed all of Jane's story. Like, she was great in the movie herself, but I felt that her story in the movie was also very rushed. Gorr's motives, aside from just wanting to kill the gods, they are fairly shifty, his motives in this movie. And again, I just thought there was a lot in there, because I don't want to get into spoilers, within Gorr's motives that were just very underbaked, just very half-cooked, and again, left a lot to be desired. This movie also felt like it had a severe lack of stakes. You know, I'm not saying every single MCU project has to be world-ending or universe-ending or multiverse collapsing, but there was just a noticeable lack of stakes in this one. The story felt extremely small scale while being on a big scale, because it's Thor. It has a lot to do with the universe and the realms and things like that, but the story just, you'll know again what I mean when you see the movie, but it just feels like there's never any stakes. It feels like our characters are never really in any kind of danger. It feels like you just know that everything's gonna be okay and hunky-dory and stuff. I just feel like, yeah, there's a really, really major lack of stakes in this one. And the last one isn't necessarily a major negative, but it's something that I do feel people should be aware of heading into the movie, because they are shown in the trailer, but don't go in expecting to see a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy or Russell Crowe as Zeus, because they are really not in the movie all that much. So I know it sounds like, coming fresh off the negatives, that I was bagging on this movie a ton, and well, that's because I kind of am. There were portions of this movie where I felt like this could potentially be the first MCU movie that I just don't like, because even the MCU projects at the bottom of my ranking, I would still, I really enjoy them. I've still seen them 4 or 5 plus times. This one, however, there were moments that I really just was not vibing with it. However, as things played out, and by the time the credits finished rolling, because it's an MCU movie, you gotta stay for the end credit scenes, I felt okay. I thought the movie was alright. It definitely did not meet my expectations. The hype was not warranted, sadly. But was it awful? No. Was it the worst of the MCU? Probably not. But I'm just disappointed because, again, Ragnarok is in my top 10, and I love Taika as a director, so I had really, really high hopes for this one, and it just didn't deliver. And so, with all that being said, I am going to be giving Thor Love and Thunder a 6.5 out of 10. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my review. While you're at it, be sure to let me know if you are going to see Thor Love and Thunder, or if you've already seen it, what you would score it out of 10. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.